Good morning, children. We are reading the second chapter from the book First Flight, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. A story of struggle for getting freedom from the so-called policy of apartheid, racial discrimination between blacks and whites. What we know till now, Nelson Mandela swearing as the President of South Africa, first ever black president of South Africa, who is talking about the hope of bringing about prosperity in the country, regardless of any discriminations based on color, gender, creed, rich, poor. So he is thinking of a better future for South Africa, its people, both black as well as whites. So that day he is not only talking about the future, he is also remembering the past, remembering the leaders who gave up their lives to bring this day. He says, I am the sum of all those African leaders who gave their life and they are not here. It pains that I cannot see them here. They cannot see what their struggles have brought. They are not here to see this day, to enjoy this day. But that long line ended with them, and today began again with me, with an upturned system. The system where leaders are blacks. He says it was the courage, wisdom, and generosity of such great leaders that their like may never be known again. People of such character and courage you would never see again. So we are beginning with the page 6 and second line, perhaps. We ended till again. So I'm going to begin from here. Before I begin, I would like to tell you 5 questions in oral comprehension check. Children, this chapter is lengthy. It will take at least 3 to 4 parts to complete it, 3 to 4 videos. So this would be the 4th video. Already 3 videos or maybe 2 videos. This would be the 3rd video. So what do you need to do? Till now, whatever questions I have discussed, keep doing them in the notebook, and whatever I discuss in this video, keep doing there and then on that particular day. Remember that. So I start with perhaps. Explanation from this line. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. If you have the book or the PDF, please underline this line. What does he mean by this line can be asked, and you need to explain. Value-based questions will be formed from such lines only. It requires such depths of. That much of oppression is required to create such men with such strong character. Okay, he has explained this line in the further sentences. My country, Nelson Mandela says, my country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil. I always know South African land is rich in minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil. But the greatest wealth of my country is its people, finer and truer than purest diamonds. Diamond is bright, beautiful, valuable. Okay, so you can say that these people of my country who have brought about this day in South Africa are just like purest diamonds, whose worth cannot be compared with anything else in this world. Valuable. And men of such great character, he wants to say. So why does he compare the people with diamonds? That the greatest wealth of my country is its people who are more finer and truer than diamonds. Because diamond is nothing special. But when it is under pressure, it tolerates that pressure, and with time becomes spectacular and bright. It doesn't break under pressure. It doesn't give up. Okay, it doesn't become dishonest. It doesn't give up at times when the courage is needed. Okay, so he says that finer and truer than purest diamonds, because my people did not break when they were facing the oppression by the whites. They tolerated everything to bring about this day that no one else had thought. So diamond doesn't break under pressure, it shines and becomes more bright. So the people of this country are more brighter than even diamonds. Diamond comparison, because diamond faces pressure and gives more shine. In fact, what happens to human beings? We face pressure, oppression, and give up. Sometimes commit suicide, sometimes give up life, sometimes run away or to hide. But he says no. These great leaders, I'm talking about the courage of these leaders, they didn't give up. The people of my country did not give up. They faced everything and finally brought freedom for the blacks. That finally this day has come due to their struggle. It is from these comrades in the struggle, comrades, my companions in the struggle, that I learned the meaning of courage. I knew what courage is. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. Let me explain this line to you. Time and again, he says that if revolution has to come in the society, okay, then people have to give their life. If you want to bring about a change in the society, if you want to bring about change in something, people have to risk their life. Okay, if you want to know people that something new in terms of science, technology, at times people like now vaccine. To make the vaccine of this coronavirus, somebody has to risk his life, no? So for a new idea, I have seen people, men and women, risk their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Defies the imagination. You cannot even imagine how much they tolerated. We cry when a single wound, a cut of a knife onto our body or onto our finger. But they have tolerated all the pains. Nelson Mandela is one of those freedom fighters of South Africa who was in jail, in prison for 30 years. And still is ready to lead the country with all optimism and all hope. So he says, I've seen people risking their life for an idea. I've seen people stand up to attacks. Stand up means to face those attacks, to face that torture to the limit. You torture me. People in India of this type were Bhagat Singh, if you remember. Rajguru tolerated to limit without breaking, showing a strength and resilience, the ability to deal with any kind of hardship, resilience that defies imagination. That means such type of courage you cannot even imagine yourself to be in and face and overcome it and still be normal. So that is really something brilliant about them. Defies the imagination. I learned from these comrades only, those who are no more. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear. You're not afraid of something. Okay, no, this is not courage. You have got victory over fear. He says, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Not being, it's not something that you're not afraid of it. You are afraid, but you have won over, you have got victory over that fear. That this fear I have faced. Poem Wind, face the fear and you will become strong person. So he says the same. They have faced that fear and got victory over that fear, that danger is never going to have any impact on them, their mind or their body. Understood? I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over that particular fear. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid. Brave is not the one जिसे डर नहीं लगता, okay? Who's not afraid, but he who conquers that fear, who faces that fear. Okay, if you're afraid of falling down while driving a scooty, so fall down. You have got victory over that fear. That even if I fall down, nothing will happen. Just an injury. This is such simple thing I'm talking about. He says not feeling afraid. It's not that you don't feel afraid. You feel afraid of that torture, but you have got victory over that torture doesn't break you, stop from your path to succeed and to gain what your aim is. These freedom fighters were afraid of being caught, afraid of going to prison, but they still tolerated everything, and this could not stop them from their path of getting equality, not only for their own men but in the entire country, South Africa. Did you get that? If there is anything that you did not understand, children, please underline that statement. Okay, and write that statement, quote it, and send it on my message. So and so person, that ma'am, I didn't understand that thing. I'll explain it personally to you on your message through recording. Okay. I learned that courage was not absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. Let me give you the reference of the movie PK. He says the moment you are born, nobody knows, no child knows that I have to hate other person because he's black, and I have to hate other person because he's black, or he's of this caste or this religion or this community or this country. Right? We are not born knowing and understanding all that, or born hating. The child, the baby who's born, he knows how to love his mother. Okay, because mother only shows love to that baby. No one is born hating. Such beautiful lines of great importance and value are stated by Nelson Mandela. Really appreciable. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. It is for sure. We are taught to hate. That means whites must have taught their generations to hate the blacks and to consider blacks as inferior and to treat them that way. They were not born hating. So people must have learned how to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. If you can teach somebody to hate something, you can teach that person to love something. Like terrorism. Who are terrorists? They are taught to hate. Okay, they are taught. Something is filled up in their mind, inciting, bhadkana, understood? Somebody tells them this is right, this is wrong, these people are not good, you have to do something for your religion, this, that, whatever is there. So he says that people must have learned to hate. And if they can learn, if they can be taught to hate, they can be taught one thing which is very good, that is to love. They can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Every human being, when the earth was created, they knew how to love each other. Later on, we learn to hate each other. When something, for example, you love a person and that person doesn't love you, then you start hating that person or that thing. Something happens. So he says people, when are taught to hate, can be taught to love, and this is what these freedom fighters and we all did today to bring this day. We taught them to love each other, irrespective of their caste, color, background. Then it's opposite. So love comes more naturally to the human heart. Heart knows how to love. We already know when we are born how to love. We are taught to hate. So for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Opposite is hatred. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, pushed to the last point in our ability to bear pain, pushed to our limits, how much can you tolerate? You will have to give up. What all? Bhagat Singh and every freedom fighter, those who struggled for the freedom of India. If you have seen the movies depicting their stories, you must have known what they are talking about, pushing one to their limit. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards. Perhaps just for a second, the guards would be tired of giving us that pain. We were bearing that pain. Just for a second, I could see that humanity in those guards also. But just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me. Reassured that this man also possesses that emotion of humanity and love. And this feeling that he too knows that we are not wrong. He too loves us, but has to do because of the rules and regulations laid down by other group of people, whites. So that reassured me and kept me going. Kept me going means I was able to tolerate all that was I had to bear that time. Man's goodness, again underline this line. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Children, we know this. Even the criminals are reformed individuals. Okay? Criminals also have love for their dear ones. It's not that something in their life, either need, necessity, or maybe that selfish greed made them become a criminal. But they too have that flame of goodness in their heart. Because human heart knows how to love. It doesn't know how to hate. It learns by and by. At times there are circumstances that forces one to become a criminal. At times he has that intention of greed in him that forces him to become a criminal. So man's goodness is a flame, he says, that can be hidden. Goodness in our heart can be hidden, but is never ever extinguished. You have to find it out from the human heart. This is what we did. Today, everyone respects each other. There is equality in my country. So that flame of goodness we have put on. We have put on that flame of goodness and extinguished the fire of greed, selfishness and hatred. Is that clear? If there is any line that you haven't understood, kindly ask on the personal, through a personal message, children. Let's do the oral comprehension check. What do the military generals do? How has their attitude changed and why? The highest military generals of South African Defence Force saluted Mandela and pledged their loyalty to the newly formed government. And how has their attitude changed and why? He says, today they are saluting me. But before some days, if you remember, they would have caught me. They would have arrested me. Today, things have changed. So, during the apartheid era, they would have arrested me. But they have changed their attitude because of the struggle and sacrifices put in by the heroes of South Africa. Today, they are respecting me, not arresting me, not insulting me. So, yes. And why have their attitude changed? Because today it is all, the day has come when the government, when the policies, when the mindset of people has changed due to the struggle of African national leaders. Why? Answer for why is this. Why were two national anthems sung? So two national anthems were sung, one by the whites, one by the blacks. Because to make them understand that in the new system, we are we are finalizing equality for all men and women in our new system of government, in our new policy. So equality of the blacks and whites. No one is superior and no one is inferior. How does Mandela describe the systems of government in his country in the first decade and in the final decade of the 20th century? So in the first decade, what was prevailing? A system of racial domination against the blacks, apartheid, creating the basis of one of the harshest and most inhumane societies the world has ever known. And in the final decade of 20th century, the previous system has been overturned and replaced by the one which recognizes the rights and freedom of all the people, not only blacks, all whites as well as blacks, regardless of the color of their skin. What does courage mean to Mandela? Courage doesn't mean absence of fear, but to Mandela, courage means victory, triumph over fear. To tolerate that much of pain and overcome. Which does he think is natural, to love or to hate? He think it is natural to love. Human beings, human heart knows to love, but it is taught, it learns to hate. So if it learns to hate, it can also be taught to love and consider others' rights, others' feelings and emotions. This is what they have done. They have changed the mentality of people. And today, this day is actually the witness of this. Yes, let's start with the next. In life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations means duties. Every human being has two obligations. Obligations to his family, duties and responsibilities towards his family, towards his parents, his wife and his children. Okay, family one side and his people, community and country one side. I have my obligations towards my child, my husband, my parents, my family. And second obligation towards my nation. I will not always be selfish that I'll think about my husband, my child, my parents, my brothers, sisters, my family. I have to think and do for my country also. So he says two obligations. One for your family, another for your people, your community and your country. This question has been asked. In a civil and humane society, we are not talking about inhumane society. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. In a normal society where everyone is given his rights and knows his duties, everything is normal. This society where whites were considered superiors and who tortured and harassed and oppressed the blacks, this society cannot be considered as normal. So in a normal society, each man is able to fulfill both the obligations according to his inclinations and abilities. If according to my ability, I can fulfill my obligations towards my family. And how can I fulfill my obligations towards my society? By keeping my surroundings clean, okay, by respecting every person, by voting for the leaders I want in my country, by raising voice against the wrong done in my society, by not supporting criminals, by not giving bribes for getting the work done. So, according to my inclinations and abilities, I can fulfill my obligations towards my nation also, as well as towards my family also. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color. I was born into the family of blacks, into the community of blacks, of my birth and color, to fulfill both of these obligations. I cannot fulfill both the obligations. In South Africa, a man of color, black color, who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, blacks who wanted to live life like a normal human being, who wanted their rights in choosing the government, in living the life, in raising their voice against the wrong, were punished children. This was their condition. A servant also has the right to ask for more salary if he deserves. They were worse than that. Blacks were considered worse than that. They were oppressed. So he was punished and isolated. Only isolation means only one, you are there, not with your people of your community. You are alone. in a prison. So punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people. Suppose I wanted to raise my voice to give equal status to my community of blacks. That person who tried to do so was inevitably, ripped from his family, snatched away. You will not be allowed to live with your family. You have to hide because they will be caught and put into prison, and that to isolation, all alone, not knowing, and then torture and torture. Only that you will know. So he was inevitably, unavoidably, without any stop, without any, you can say, death is inevitable. You cannot stop that. So you could not stop being ripped from your family. You will be caught and then imprisoned, and that too a life of isolation. You cannot see your family again, your community again. Ripped from his family, and then from his family and his home. Ripped is taken away from his family and his home, and was forced to live a life apart. A twilight existence. You know from the word meanings, twilight existence means a life of secret. That means your family, you cannot live normally like your family. You have to hide. You're working for the freedom of your country. You are taking steps, but you have to hide so as to continue your work. You cannot show yourself to the government, whosoever is dominating. So a twilight existence, a life hiding somewhere. Twilight, half secret life of secrecy and rebellion. You are termed as a rebel. You are not a freedom fighter, you are a rebel. You are a criminal according to the present government at that time. So the blacks who were fighting, who were struggling for their independence, for the upliftment of the black people, were considered rebels. We have to live a life of secrecy and live. You hide from the government. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. In the beginning, I did not choose to place my people above my family. I thought my obligation to my family is more. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. He says, at first, when I started working for the freedom, for the upliftment of blacks, I did not think that I have to stay away from my family. I thought I would fulfill both my obligations, both my duties. But while serving my people, I found that I could not. It was not in my hand. I could not do anything for my family. I had to stay away from them. So I was stopped, prevented from fulfilling my duties as a son. I could not be a good son. I could only be a freedom fighter. I could not be a good son, a good brother, a good father, or a good husband. I had to live a life of secrecy. I could not be with them and serve them and do my duties as a son, husband, brother, or any other individual. We'll read the next in the next video. Good day, children.